I was standing in this parking lot of the fanciest Italian restaurant in our little Colorado town, my hand still gripping the small velvet box in my jacket pocket. The autumn wind cut through me, but that was not what made me cold. 2 years. 2 years of building something I thought was real, something I thought would last forever. Emma Jean was inside laughing with people I did not know, saying words I never imagined would come from her lips. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe if you have not already. Trust me, you will want to hear how this unfolds. My name is Caleb, and I turned 32 years old last spring. I grew up in a small town nestled between the Rocky Mountains, the kind of place where everyone knows your name and your parents' names, and probably your grandparents too. My father was a carpenter before his back gave out, and his father built half the barns in the county. Working with wood was in my blood before I even knew what that meant. I never went to college. Not because I could not, but because I knew what I wanted to do with my hands and my life from the time I was 14 years old. While other kids were dreaming about corner offices and stock portfolios, I was in my father's garage, learning how to read the grain of oak and maple and walnut. By the time I graduated high school, I could build a rocking chair from scratch that would last 100 years. Starting my own business was not easy. For the first 3 years, I worked out of that same garage, taking any job that came my way. Kitchen cabinets, bookshelves, bed frames, you name it. I drove my old Ford pickup all over the county, delivering furniture and picking up new projects. There were months when I barely made rent, times when I wondered if my father had been wrong about me having a gift for this work. But I kept going. Slowly, word spread. People started asking for me by name. A restaurant owner from Denver drove 4 hours just to commission a set of tables after seeing my work at his cousin's house. 5 years ago, I finally saved enough to rent my own workshop space on the edge of town. Now I have 4 employees, a waiting list 3 months long, and enough work to keep us busy through next winter. I tell you all this not to brag, but so you understand who I am. I am not rich. I do not drive a fancy car or wear expensive clothes, but I am proud of what I have built with my own 2 hands. I earn an honest living doing work that matters, work that will outlast me. My father taught me that there is dignity in craftsmanship, and I have never forgotten that lesson. The day I met Emma Jean started like any other Tuesday. I was at my usual spot in Maggie's coffee house, sketching designs for a dining set while nursing my second cup of black coffee. The bell above the door chimed, and she walked in like she had stepped out of a different world entirely. She had dark brown hair that fell past her shoulders in waves, and she was wearing a cream-colored blouse that probably cost more than my entire outfit. Everything about her screamed city girl, from her designer handbag to the way she looked around the cafe like she was cataloging everything for a future report. I figured she was just passing through, maybe lost on her way to Aspen or some other place where people like her belonged. But then she sat down at the table next to mine, and something unexpected happened. She noticed the chair she was sitting in and ran her hand along the armrest with genuine curiosity. "This is handmade, is it not?" she asked, looking up at me. I nodded, caught off guard. "I built that one about 6 years ago." Maggie was one of my first customers. Her eyes widened with interest. Not the polite interest people fake when they are being courteous, but real fascination. She asked me about the wood, the joinery, how long it took to make. Before I knew it, 2 hours had passed and my coffee had gone cold. Her name was Emma Jean, she told me, and she had just moved to town from New York City. She worked in finance for a big firm, something with a lot of letters in the name that I could never quite remember. The company had let her work remotely after the pandemic, and she had chosen our little mountain town because she needed to escape the noise and chaos of the city. She had an MBA from a university I had only seen in movies, and she spoke 3 languages, and she had traveled to more countries than I could name. I remember thinking that there was no way someone like her would be interested in someone like me. But when I got up to leave, she asked for my number. And when I texted her that night just a simple message saying it was nice to meet her, she replied within minutes. We had our first date that Friday, a hike to the waterfall north of town. By Sunday, I knew I was in trouble. The next 2 years were the happiest of my life. Emma Jean was unlike anyone I had ever known. She was smart and curious and full of stories about places I had only read about. She taught me about wine, how to tell a good Pinot from a mediocre one, and introduced me to jazz musicians whose names I had never heard, but whose music moved something deep inside me. She took me to an opera once when we visited Denver, and even though I did not understand a word, I cried during the final act because the music was that beautiful. In return, I showed her my world. I took her camping in spots my father had shown me as a boy, places where you could see the Milky Way stretch across the sky like spilled milk. I taught her how to cast a fishing line, how to tell pine from spruce by the smell alone, how to sit in silence with another person and feel completely at peace. She said I grounded her, that being with me was like coming home after a long journey. After a year of dating, Emma Jean moved into my small cabin on the edge of town. It was not much, just 2 bedrooms and a kitchen that could barely fit both of us at once. But she said she loved it. She said it felt real in a way her Manhattan apartment never had. For her birthday that year, I spent 3 weeks building her a desk from black walnut I had been saving for something special. It had curved legs and hidden drawers, and a finish so smooth it felt like touching silk. When I gave it to her, she cried. She said no one had ever made her anything before, that it was the most thoughtful gift she had ever received. I kept that memory in my heart like a treasure. Somewhere around our 18-month anniversary, I started thinking about forever. I had never been the marrying type, or so I thought. But with Emma Jean, everything felt different. I could picture us growing old in that cabin, adding rooms as our family grew, sitting on the porch in rocking chairs I would build myself. I started setting aside money from every job, squirreling it away in a separate account. 3 months of savings bought me a diamond ring. 1-carat princess cut set in a simple platinum band. It was not the biggest ring in the jewelry store, not by a long shot. But it was the best I could do, and I believed that would be enough for someone who loved me. I planned to propose on our 2-year anniversary, which was only 2 weeks away. I had it all figured out. I would take her back to the waterfall, where we had our first date, wait until the sun was setting and the light was golden, then get down on one knee and ask her to spend the rest of her life with me. But then Marcus called about his engagement party and everything changed. Marcus has been my best friend since 7th grade, when we both got detention for laughing too hard during a school assembly. He is the kind of guy who would give you the shirt off his back and then apologize that it was not nicer. When he told me he was proposing to Priscilla, the daughter of the local bank president, I was genuinely happy for him. They had been together since college, and anyone could see they were meant for each other. The engagement party was held at Bellini's, the nicest restaurant in town. The kind of place where they fold the napkins into little swans and the waiters speak in hushed voices like they are in a library. I wore my only suit, a charcoal gray number I had bought for my cousin's wedding 3 years earlier. Emma Jean wore a red dress that took my breath away when she came down the stairs. "You look beautiful," I told her, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. She smiled, but something in her eyes seemed distant. "Thank you. Let us not be late." The party was already in full swing when we arrived. Marcus grabbed me in a bear hug, and Priscilla kissed my cheek and told me how glad she was that we could make it. The room was full of familiar faces, friends and neighbors I had known my whole life, but there was also a group of strangers clustered near the bar. Emma Jean recognized them immediately. "Oh my God, that is Bradley and the team from the New York office," she said, her voice pitching higher with excitement. "I had no idea they would be here." Apparently, one of them, a woman named Sloane, had been college roommates with Priscilla. They had flown in for the party, a whole group of finance people from Emma Jean's company. I watched as she hurried over to greet them, hugging and air-kissing like they were long-lost family. I tried not to mind. Emma Jean worked from home, so she rarely got to see her colleagues in person. It made sense that she would want to catch up. I busied myself talking to Marcus's father about the pergola I was building for his backyard, keeping one eye on Emma Jean across the room. She looked different with them. more animated, more polished, like she was performing a version of herself I had never seen before. The men in the group wore suits that probably cost more than my truck, and they spoke with the easy confidence of people who had never worried about making rent. Emma Jean fit right in with them, laughing at their jokes, touching their arms when she spoke. "Stop it," I told myself. "She chose you. She lives with you. You are being insecure for no reason." About an hour into the party, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the screen and saw it was Frank Morrison, the owner of a new farm-to-table restaurant opening in Boulder next month. He had commissioned a set of 12 dining tables from me, my biggest order ever. The deadline was tight, and he had been anxious about some design details. I found Emma Jean in conversation with the New York group. "Hey, I need to take this call. Work stuff. I will be right back." She barely glanced at me. "Okay, sure." I stepped out onto the restaurant's side patio, where the autumn air was crisp and the noise from inside faded to a murmur. Frank had questions about the table legs, wanting to make sure they would fit with the aesthetic he was going for. We went back and forth for 15 minutes discussing measurements and wood stains and delivery schedules. When I finally hung up, I took a moment to look at the stars. The velvet box was still in my pocket where it had been all night. I had brought it on a whim, thinking maybe if the moment felt right, I would ask Emma Jean to take a walk and surprise her early. Now, looking at the clear mountain sky, I felt a surge of certainty. She was the one. I was ready. I walked back inside, scanning the room for her familiar red dress. She was not at the main table or near the dance floor. Then I heard her laugh, that distinctive sound I loved coming from the far corner, where the bar curved around a decorative partition. I headed that way already, smiling, ready to pull her aside and tell her I wanted to show her something outside. But as I got closer, I heard voices on the other side of the partition, and something made me stop. "So, Emma Jean," a male voice said, smooth and teasing, "if your little carpenter proposed to you, what would you say?" I froze. My hand instinctively went to the box in my pocket. There was a ripple of laughter, and then I heard Emma Jean's voice, clear as a bell. "Him, oh God, he is obviously just a phase." "Oh no." More laughter. My heart stopped beating. A female voice chimed in. "Then why have you been with him for 2 years? That is a long phase." Emma Jean sighed, the way someone does when explaining something obvious to a slow child. "You know how it is. After the whole Derek disaster, I needed somewhere quiet to lick my wounds. This town is cheap. The scenery is pretty, and Caleb is sweet, easy. But seriously, can you imagine me spending the rest of my life with a guy who makes tables for a living? Come on." "Bradley has that position open in the New York office," the smooth-voiced man said. "Just say the word, and you are back in civilization." "I have been thinking about it," Emma Jean replied, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "I just need to find the right time to end my little mountain retreat." I do not remember how I got to the parking lot. One moment I was standing behind that partition, the velvet box burning a hole in my pocket, and the next, I was outside in the cold air, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The world felt like it had tilted on its axis, like gravity worked differently now. 2 years. 24 months of dinners and hikes and quiet mornings. Hundreds of I love yous whispered in the dark. The tears when she saw the desk I made her. All of it, every single moment I had treasured, played through my mind like a movie I no longer recognized. Had any of it been real? Or had I just been a pit stop on her way back to her real life? I wanted to storm back inside and confront her. I wanted to throw the ring box at her feet and demand to know how she could say those things about someone who loved her so completely. But my legs would not move in that direction. Some part of me knew that making a scene at my best friend's engagement party would only add humiliation to heartbreak. Instead, I found Marcus near the entrance laughing with some of his cousins. I pulled him aside. "Hey, I have to take off. Work emergency." Marcus frowned. "Everything okay? You look pale." "I am fine. Just something I have to handle. Congratulations again, brother." "Priscilla is lucky to have you." He studied my face for a moment, then nodded. "Call me tomorrow, okay?" I clapped him on the shoulder and walked out without looking back. I did not say goodbye to Emma Jean. I did not tell her I was leaving. I just got in my truck and drove. The drive home took 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. I did not turn on the radio. I did not call anyone. I just stared at the dark road ahead, trying to process what I had heard. Phase, retreat, easy. The words echoed in my head like a cruel song stuck on repeat. My cabin looked different when I pulled into the driveway. The porch light Emma Jean always left on glowed yellow in the darkness. The welcome mat she had picked out sat by the front door. Her wind chimes, a gift from her mother, tinkled softly in the breeze. Everywhere I looked, I saw traces of her, of us, of the life I thought we were building together. I sat down on the porch steps instead of going inside. The October night was cold, but I barely felt it. I pulled the velvet box from my pocket and opened it. The diamond caught the porch light and sparkled, throwing tiny rainbows onto my palm. 3 months of earnings, 60 tables, 20 chairs, 100 smaller pieces. Hours of sanding and staining and polishing, all for this little stone that was supposed to represent forever. I had been so proud of myself for saving up for it, so certain that the sacrifice would be worth it. My phone started buzzing. Emma Jean's name flashed on the screen, followed by a string of text messages. "Where did you go, Caleb? Why did you leave without telling me?" I turned off the phone and went back to looking at the stars. I do not know how long I sat there. Long enough for the cold to finally seep into my bones. Long enough to replay every moment of our relationship, searching for signs I had missed. The way she never wanted to post photos of us on her social media. How she changed the subject whenever her New York friends came up. The subtle tension I sometimes noticed when she talked about her job. Had there always been a part of her that looked down on me? A part she kept hidden until tonight, when the audience was right and her guard was down. I heard her car before I saw it. The familiar hum of her Audi turning onto our gravel road. Headlights swept across the yard, and then she was there, running toward me in her red dress and heels, her face tight with worry. "Caleb, oh my God, I have been calling you for an hour. What happened? Why did you just leave?" I looked up at her from the porch steps. In the dim light, she looked the same as always. Beautiful. Polished. Mine, I had thought. But now I wondered if I had ever really known her at all. "Come inside," she said, reaching for my hand. "You are freezing. What is going on?" I let her pull me up, let her lead me into the warm cabin, let her fuss over me like nothing was wrong. She made tea and sat beside me on the couch we had picked out together, her hand on my knee, her eyes searching my face. "Talk to me," she said. "You are scaring me." I looked at her for a long moment. "What do you think about our future?" She blinked. "Our future? What do you mean?" "Us. Where this is going. What you want." She laughed, but it sounded nervous. "I think our future is great. Why are you asking me this? Did something happen?" "If I proposed to you," I said slowly, "what would you say?" Her hand stiffened on my knee. Are you... She glanced around the room like she was looking for a hidden camera. "Why are you asking me this?" "Just answer the question." "Well, I mean, that is a big question. Are you saying you want to propose? Because we should probably talk about..." "I heard you." The words hung in the air between us. I watched her face cycle through confusion, then recognition, then something that looked like fear. "Heard me," she repeated, but her voice had changed. "At the bar, with Bradley and your work friends. I heard everything." The color drained from her face. "Caleb, wait. That was not... I did not mean it like..." "Just a phase," I said. "Ew, no. Your little mountain retreat. Ring any bells?" She stood up abruptly, pacing the small living room. "You have to understand, those people they are sharks. If I showed any weakness, if they thought I was happy in a small town with a carpenter," I finished for her. "I did not mean it like that." "Then how did you mean it, Emma Jean?" She stopped pacing, her back to me. When she turned around, there were tears streaming down her face. "I love you, Caleb. I do. But those are my colleagues, my career. If they think I have gone soft, if they think I have given up on everything I worked for, so you told them I was just a phase. I was just saying what they wanted to hear. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the velvet box. Her eyes locked onto it like it was a live grenade. I set it on the coffee table between us. I was going to ask you tonight, I said quietly, after the party. I was going to take you outside and tell you that these 2 years have been the best of my life, that I want to wake up next to you every morning until I die, that I want to build a life with you here in this town, in this cabin. She reached for the box, but I pulled it back. But now I know the truth. I am not your future. I am just where you hide while you figure out what you really want. That is not true, she whispered. I love you. Maybe part of you does, but not enough to be proud of it, not enough to defend it when your real world comes calling. She was crying harder now, mascara running down her cheeks. I can change. I will tell them. I will post pictures of us everywhere. I will. You will change what they hear, I said. Not what you actually think of me. She had no answer to that. We both knew it was true. I stood up from the couch. I need you to pack your things. You can stay tonight, but I want you gone by morning. Caleb, please. We can work through this. Couples work through harder things than this. Not when one of them is ashamed of the other. I deserve better than that. You should too, honestly. You should be with someone you are actually proud of. I grabbed my jacket from the hook by the door. Where are you going? She asked, panic in her voice. The workshop. I will sleep there tonight. Caleb. I will see you in the morning, Emma Jean. We can talk more then. But I need you to know that my decision is made. I walked out into the cold night, leaving her standing in the living room we had made together. The ring box sat on the coffee table, gleaming under the lamplight. Sleep did not come easy that night. I lay on the old couch in my workshop, surrounded by the smell of sawdust and wood stains, staring at the ceiling and trying to imagine what tomorrow would look like. What next month would look like. What the rest of my life would look like without her in it. I had been so certain, so absolutely sure that she was my person, that we were building something real. Now I had to rebuild my understanding of the past 2 years from the ground up. Every memory was tainted now, every I love you carrying an asterisk I had not known was there. When dawn finally came, I drove back to the cabin. Emma Jean was awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of cold coffee in her hands. She had changed out of her red dress into jeans and a sweater, and her eyes were puffy from crying. Can we talk? She asked as I walked in. I think we said everything that needed to be said last night. Please, Caleb, give me one more chance. I will quit the job. I will cut off Bradley and all of them. I will prove to you that this is what I want. I sat down across from her. Answer me honestly. When you picture your future, your real future, am I in it? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her eyes dropped to the table. That is what I thought. I could try, she said weakly. I could learn to... You should not have to learn to want someone, Emma Jean. That is not how love works. We sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, a bird was singing, oblivious to the ending happening in this kitchen. I really did care about you, she finally said. That part was not fake. I believe you. But caring is not the same as choosing. And you did not choose me. Not really. I helped her carry her boxes to her car. It did not take long. She had never fully moved in, I realized. Half of her things were still in storage in Denver, waiting for her to decide if she was staying. Now I understood why. When her car was loaded, she stood by the driver's door, keys in hand. I am sorry, she said, for what it is worth. It is worth something, just not enough. She reached up and touched my face, a gesture she had done 1,000 times before. Will you ever forgive me? I considered the question. Forgiveness I can do. Trust is another matter. She nodded, accepting that. Then she got in her car and drove away. I watched until she disappeared around the bend in the road, until the sound of her engine faded into silence. Then I went inside and started removing the traces of her from my life. The weeks that followed were harder than I expected. Grief is not logical. You cannot reason your way out of it. Even though I knew I had made the right choice, even though I understood that she was never really mine, I still missed her. I missed the smell of her shampoo on my pillow. I missed her terrible cooking and her worse singing. I missed having someone to come home to. I threw myself into work. The Morrison order kept me busy 12 hours a day, and when that was done, there were a dozen other projects waiting. I took on an apprentice, a 19-year-old kid named Danny, who reminded me of myself at that age. Teaching him gave me purpose, a reason to show up to the workshop when getting out of bed felt impossible. Marcus came by a few days after the party. He had heard bits and pieces from Priscilla, who had gotten an earful from Sloane. By the time the story reached him, it was probably distorted, but the core was accurate enough. "I should punch Bradley in his smug face," Marcus said, pacing my workshop. "Who says something like that? What kind of person—" "Let it go," I told him. She said what she really felt. Better I found out now than after we were married. That does not make it okay. No, but it is over now. I would rather focus on what comes next than stay angry at what happened. I sold the ring. The jeweler gave me about 70% of what I paid, which felt fitting somehow. I used the money to buy a new sanding machine for the shop. Every time I use it, I think about how that diamond became something useful, something that creates, instead of symbolizing what I lost. 3 months later, I heard that Emma-Jean had moved back to New York. She had taken that position Bradley mentioned, the one in the city office. The news came through Priscilla, who had stayed loosely in touch with her college friend. Apparently, she and Bradley dated for a few weeks, Priscilla said over dinner at their house. Then she found out he was married. I did not feel satisfaction at that news, though part of me expected to. Mostly I just felt tired. Tired of thinking about her, tired of wondering what might have been, tired of carrying the weight of a future that was never real. A week later, I got a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, I recognized her immediately. "I know I have no right to reach out. I just wanted to say I am sorry again. You were right about everything. I hope you find someone who deserves you." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "I hope you find whatever you are looking for. I mean that." She did not reply. I did not expect her to. These days, my life looks different than I imagined it would. I am still in the same cabin, still running the same workshop, still building furniture that will outlast me. But I am not the same person who stood in that parking lot with a ring in his pocket, wondering where everything went wrong. I learned something in that restaurant, something more valuable than any lesson about love or relationships. I learned that my worth does not depend on how others see me. I am a carpenter. I work with my hands. I create things of beauty from raw materials. And there is nothing about that life that anyone should be ashamed of. The right person will know that. The right person will love me not despite what I do, but because of who I am. And until she comes along, I am content to wait. So if you are watching this, and you have ever felt like someone was settling for you, like you were just a stop along the way to their real destination, I want you to know something. You deserve to be chosen. Not tolerated. Not endured. Chosen. Do not ever let anyone make you feel like you are just a phase. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever discovered that someone you loved saw you differently than you thought? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. And if this video meant something to you, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss what comes next. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope wherever you are, you know that you are worthy of real love. The kind that is proud to claim you. The kind that would never call you a phase. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.